Hey everybody, it's Patrick, also known as Bob from the card text, and I got with me here my two colleagues.
Hey, Scott here.
This is Thero.
All right, and so Kennedy Hawk is a new leadership ally, Goliath. So right off the bat, it kind of reminds me of Vision.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the rules interactions are very similar.
So he's got very similar rules interactions for Vision, which came up fairly early on after Vision was introduced, or after the core set, particularly around what happens when you boost Vision and then he leaves and re-enters play, which has gotten a lot easier with the rapid response, but it was always possible if you feeded him and then someone else played Vision, or you just make the call to pull him back into play. The important bit was the ruling from Caleb that we got back then was that when Vision leaves play and then comes back in, he becomes a new copy. So he does not carry over any of his bonuses that he may have had before he left play. So that same should apply here for Goliath, that if Goliath leaves play and then comes back in, he will no longer have +4 attack. He will no longer be discarded at the end of the phase, because those things applied to the copy of Goliath that started in play, not the one that comes into play after he's discarded.
Okay, Scott?
I'm just bringing up Vision. I want to see how they compare.
Vision had a limit once per round, and Goliath has max. And is it still the case that there's a subtle difference there? Like once you use Goliath's ability and you bring him back, you cannot use it again. Is that the case? Max is slightly different in terms of copies of the card.
Yeah, max is once across all copies, whereas it is once per copy.
Can you explain the difference real quick, just so the listeners understand a bit better?
Yeah. So if you look at max in the RRG, I'll just read the rule. But max in the RRG says a max X per period imposes a maximum across all copies of a card by title for all players. Generally, this phrase imposes a maximum number of times that copies of that card can be played during the designated time period. So in this case, it would be a maximum of the number of times you can use Goliath's ability. So across all copies. And so if he leaves play, somebody else plays him, they still can't use his ability because it's already been used once that phase.
And so the difference being, if you play Vision and he gets discarded for whatever reason, and Vision comes back, you can always use his action ability to give him a buff. Whereas Goliath, that is not the case. If you use his ability and he gets discarded, and you bring him back within that same period, you cannot use his ability again.
Yeah, that's right. Because Vision is limit once per round, and limit X per period is a limit that appears on some player cards. These limits are card specific. So because, as we discussed earlier, when a card comes back into play, it's a different card. The limit applies to the new version of the card, whereas max is by title, so it applies to all versions of the card.
So it does make them the two cards distinct in that way. So that's interesting. And because it's an action, other players can call for it, but that doesn't seem as beneficial as maybe Visions, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, down the road, there might be interactions where another player would want to do something with your ally. I can't think of anything that's in the game at the moment where you would benefit from doing that.
I think the only ways I think that you can use an ally's stats right now are either exhausting them yourself to use them, which can only be done on your turn, or teamwork, which requires using your hero, which can only be done on your turn.
Okay. And it is a lasting effect, correct? It says until the end of the phase. Usually lasting effects tell you the period that they last. Would that be significant for any other interactions, do we think?
Yeah, I mean, if you get ready him, for instance, that's significant.
So just get ready would be the most interesting card to repeat his attack. So it looks like Make the Call and Rapid Response aren't that great of a combo with him.
I think they're still good combos, because if you you can get in 1 thwart, 2 attacks, at which point, because he's only got 4 health, he will go to the discard pile. At that point, you can bring him back with Rapid Response. And if you've either boosted him before that, you can use Get Ready to put in 2 attacks. So say you play him on 1 turn, you use him to thwart on that turn. Next round, you attack with him once, or you use his ability, give him the +4 attack with him once, get ready to ready him, attack with him again. At that point, he goes away. You can then bring him back with Rapid Response, and he then doesn't get discarded at the end of the phase, which means he's then ready in the villain phase to block, or in fact you could thwart with him again and then still have him available to block in the villain phase if you wanted to do that, or even use him the next round again. So there's definitely ways that you can use him to great effect with both Get Ready and Rapid Response.
I mean, Rapid Response, I think, is a good combo for him because he's a 4-cost ally, and getting him back out with only paying 2 is good. It doesn't allow you to take extra advantage of his action ability for the bonus attack. That aspect of him doesn't combo with it to get lots of use out of it in 1 turn. It's still good because Rapid Response is just good.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it allows you to bypass the additional cost of his ability, which is discarding him at the end of the phase. So you use his ability knowing that he is going to die and get discarded, and then you Rapid Response him back into play. And the key thing with that is Rapid Response is only on defeat, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
So yeah, you can't just wait for him to get discarded at the end of the phase and then Rapid Response him. He has to be defeated. So either you have to attack with him to deal him the 2 consequential, or thwart with him to deal him his last point of health in damage, and then Rapid Response him. And then that bypasses the cost of having used his ability.
All right. I think that covers all the interactions that we can think of at the moment. Thanks to Kennedy Hawk and MCM for thinking of us when the spoiler came around. Thanks, everybody. All right. We'll let Scott get some sleep then. Good night, Scott.
Yeah, cheers.
See you guys later.